You're still watching Business Tech Guide on DGN. Today I'm joined by Emmanuel Gamor, an AI and digital transformation facilitator and innovation strategist. He has held leadership roles at MTN and Meta, driving digital programs and innovation across multiple countries. He joins us today to share insights on AI, digital transformation, and Africa's tech future. Hi, Emmanuel. How are you doing?
Nadia, I'm doing very well. It's good to see you.
I know, it's so good. I'm glad you could make it.
Of course. Happy New Year. I know the last time we worked on something together was 2025 into 2026.
Yes, the beginning of the year.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm so happy we meet again.
Yep.
Okay, so before we get into our main questions, we play a little game, rapid fire questions. Are you ready to answer that? This or that?
Wow. So yes, but slow it down for me and your
It
listeners.
just sneaks up on you. All right, so the first one is artificial intelligence or human creativity. See, easy questions.
They're not, especially because of what I do. And then I'd pick a hybrid. I know there are some things that you would love for automation, but there's some things that are authentic and soulful that you would want human creation to have a touch on. So I'll cheat a little bit. For that question, I'd go for hybrid.
But you can't choose both next time.
Okay.
So startup ecosystem or corporate innovation?
Corporate innovation. I think startups are great for sandboxing and thinking of ideas, but corporate usually has the muscle, has the backing and money, and then corporates that are startup thinking or startup like can actually do a lot of impact and good, and that's backed by research.
Okay, that's good. Building products or building communities?
Definitely communities. I think that a lot of how we see products, because it's tech and digital and others, has become almost like, hey, I need to be a product manager, I need to build something.
Yeah.
But if you're a community manager, eventually you have to serve the community, and that looks like you would become somebody who builds products. So community is almost like if you look at a Venn diagram, the larger of the circle, and products fits into it.
Okay.
So community always thrives.
That's a good one. So data-driven decisions or intuition-led leadership?
Oof, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
I think the headspace I'm in now, data-driven helps because you almost can pinpoint, but it has a limitation. You can't use data to predict the future. Nobody knows the future. So great leaders who have intuition, they're almost considered visionary. They don't have the data, but they have intuition and they can prepare ahead. Because now I'm in my futuristic, looking towards the future states, and we're celebrating Ghana Month, looking into Ghana's future. I think having some level of intuition is great. So I'll pick intuitive leadership.
Okay, that's good. So remote work or in-person collaboration?
Oh, absolutely remote.
You like remote?
Well, yes. I think for work, you didn't say for play. I
Okay.
think for work, we're now in a global workplace. I think a lot of people now, which is a bit of a shame, I know I stand more on the remote work and remote connection. But what we've realized now is that talent is talent everywhere. So if you have a company that understands remote work, you can unlock geniuses that are based in Swidru, that are based in Sesho Bakwaya, or in Tamale, or in Togo, or in Cameroon, or Tunis. Yeah. But if you always prioritize in person, then it means that you're not able to leverage 100%. So that's a byproduct that I think a lot of companies and a lot of people miss. Right now, the solutions to big problems are no longer your small neighborhood, your small community. They're actually global. So companies that accept and embrace remote work, which does not negate that you have in-person touch points, they're also able to embrace more talents that may not be in a local vicinity or close by.
Okay, and then last one to you is teaching future leaders or building the next big tech platform?
I think future leaders. I think that what's happening now is that similar to traditional industries, you're not going to build the next car, you're not going to build the next plane. There are quite a number of tech platforms available, so odds of creating the newest next one is going to be a bit difficult, or at least you find some competition. Future leaders, I think we need future leaders in every community, and I also think that the way that we're wired, after 70 to 80 years, a new generation of people come up.
Yes.
So by us being intentional, we have the opportunity to teach future leaders, guide them, and help them make the impact to solve tomorrow's problems.
Okay, thank you so much. We're done with our rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're entering our main question.
Sure.
So I want to ask you, you worked across a lot of global tech companies. What first sparked your interest into digital transformation?
Good point. I think digital transformation as a concept was initially introduced to me when I was with Google Ghana. at the time, and I was responsible initially for Google Plus, the online platform for building community end to end, and then we transitioned into YouTube. And one of the things that I loved about the YouTube free-to-use video platform was that a lot of people could put information and you can access it anywhere, right? So things that people were paying a lot of money to access, either at a business school or a technical school, folks could also be tutors and others around that. And digital transformation meant that you were taking digitizing manual and analog processes and making sure that it has an impact, a business impact, a community impact. I was part of the World Economic Forum, and during my time there when we went to Davos, it became clear that every business would have to have or become a digital tech business. You would have to become tech-enabled, you'd have to understand how to plug in with customer insights, and you would have to have data stored in a meaningful way that people could take decisions that were data-driven, but intuitive leaders could move forward. So with that at the back of your mind, then I started to understand that digital transformation was a linchpin to how we grow, create economic value moving forward. So yeah, it's been almost like a common thread. I think I joined Google almost 15 years ago now.
Wow.
So it's been a while since that's happened, but you've seen that thread again when Facebook converted to Meta, and when we're looking at how do we get people using social experiences with devices like the Oculus, now very almost popular are the Ray-Ban glasses. But we've gone beyond that to also see how people store information, how do we communicate. What I'm excited about now that I also dabble a bit in the creator economy is how then do we keep a repository of our heritage, our arts and culture. There's so much history that if you don't go to a library or speak to those who documented it in paper, you don't have access.
Yeah.
And so for the future young leaders that we're talking about, for them to experience our history, there's so many digital platforms that can help them experience at a lower cost, an immersive experience where they're from, where we're going, and carry our culture along as well.
Okay, so you started 15 years ago and you stayed into it. It piqued your interest 15 years ago and it's still piquing your interest now, I'm hearing.
Yeah, so I think the challenge with being someone who works in tech, so I started off more as a trained multimedia journalist and also pre-law from college. But then you realize that digital and digitization has evolved. So being able to do online work and then coming up with strategy for campaigns and social media. So now I teach digital transformation with ESCOM members, with Stellenbosch Business School, Econet and others, and have partnerships with my alma mater, University of Florida, and Harvard Business School in order to deliver those. Because you realize that, and as much as people speak, oh, we like digital transformation, when you do an audit, are you really digitized? Mm-hmm. Do you really offer this? You find out that, especially in our part of the world, in the African continent, we're still far behind. Yeah. Most companies are less than 40% digitized. Most companies have maybe anywhere between 5 to 10% of the effects of digitization having an impact both on their customers and internal work, where folks feel like, okay, there's enough information, connectivity, and there's enough digital services and products to help them optimize their performance. Okay. So yes, it's been 15 years of being introduced to the concepts, being an expert in the field, but I'm seeing a lot of gains. Access to internet is helpful, lower cost of devices so people can plug in and use is helpful. And then now with AI, having automated performance or an intelligent ally in a bot helps make these type of things a lot more accessible than it was maybe 15 years ago.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. So you, during your time at MTN, because you spoke about auditing actually, like if they're actually digitized and or not. So during your time at MTN, you led digital channel transformations and stuff like that for a lot of users. Right. So I want to know, what does it actually look like in African companies for digital transformation?
Great point. So shout out to MTN, shout out to the team, my manager and CEO at the time, Salam Adadivo, and two managers as well, Ibrahim Mistonoun and then before Daryl Bianchi. We're incredibly bullish about us taking traditional MTN journeys that the customer has, right? So MTN as a telecommunications telco business was providing call and data services as its core. Our team was brought in to bring things like self-service and accessibility. And self-service looked like being able to have folks join. I was responsible primarily for the My MTN app. Oh. A lot of people look at it as the yellow app.
Yes.
So my team was responsible for products, user experience and design.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so shout out to Vanessa, O'Hara, David, and Emmanuel Kumson. Those were my managers who were responsible for commercializing, selling bundles, plugging in commercial products like loyalty. So now you can get loyalty points and others because we locally managed from a previous app that was managed abroad. But one of the key things that is helpful, and I've become a stickler for this, was introducing accessibility. So accessibility means that you make sure that the app meets certain standards so that those who are visually impaired or need almost like vocal activation can utilize the app, right? And that was something that was not part of my job description and or what was expected. But we took time to meet with visually impaired community members to ask them, because then by doing that, one of the philosophies of design innovation is that when you cater to folks who are in the margins, who may be less able, you cater to those who are fully able, and then your code is written a bit better, your products are a bit better. So with very limited resources, we made sure that my MTN app met some minimum accessibility standards. We're really excited. MTN has visually impaired stakeholders and folks who are shareholders, and they spoke up at the AGM in 2025. What that also did is, you can see that for those who might be dyslexic and others, we introduced dark mode. So the new iteration of the MyMTN is dark. It allows for the options. Also on Android specifically, which allowed for a lot more room and rain, you can easily plug into voice-activated ones. For some of the visually impaired folks, they would have to lean on someone else, take their PIN code, they couldn't confirm. We also worked behind the scenes for some futuristic, almost like opportunities. There were some young folks who were part of the MTN accelerator programs back in the day, and they also have created voice-activated prompts to allow people to use USSD and other things just using voice. And I think the team is working around that, managing some level of fraud so that folks do not hack into the systems or take advantage through social engineering, but also pushing features that would help folks who may be temporarily visually impaired, or people who just also want kind of a better aesthetic and feel throughout the journey for accessing MTN products and services.
Then there was a lot of digital transformation happening at MTN.
There was.
Yeah.
It was a really fun time.
You guys
I think
took into consideration a lot of things, and that's what we need to do, actually. So that was good.
No, absolutely. Shout out to the crew, MTN Ghana, a very special team of folks. I think I took a sabbatical to teach in Mauritius at Africa Leadership University, and I had 2 visually impaired students. So for me, after that experience in 2017, 2018, it's a personal mission of mine to make sure that products and experiences I have are inclusive. So I had a really good supportive team. Also then, because MTN has a large customer base and demographic, that initiative could touch quite a number of people. And I'm sure there's so many other features that the team are working on that are going through alpha and beta stages, and in the coming months to years, hopefully they'll roll it out in order to support the customers.
Okay, that's a good one. So it takes me to my next question. Many organizations talk about digital transformation, but few execute it very well. So what mistakes do you think these companies are making?
So I think part of digital transformation, it's almost like the pursuit of excellence. It's a journey, not a destination, right? So once you understand that, then from your top leaders to middle level managers, all the way to your team members that execute, you create almost like time-bound goals to meet them, chunks at a time. I think sometimes when people hear digital transformation or they have a workshop, they get excited and people start to compare themselves. They compare themselves to global apps and say, oh, we want to be like a Facebook, like a WhatsApp. But to be honest, these things are built around goal setting. So each company, you have to look at your strengths. You also have to look at what you're willing to invest. The early wins for digital transformation, they don't pay off immediately. Think about it as a research and development budget. And so a lot of companies locally may not have that buffer room or the discipline to put some of the profits aside for research and development. But once it clicks, especially for things like self-service, when folks now, I think, can do SIM swap, so that was something we're working on. The number of people that had, and stress and the cost for our call centers to be able to activate that was incredibly high. Once it's automated and digitally transformed, the experience for customers is so much more seamless. You can almost do it at home. And then, again, another almost like positive side of digital transformation is when maybe you have a crisis, like when folks had to stay home during COVID. I know it's been a while since we've thought about that, but that's when you realize companies that were digitally transformed folks could work from home, they had access to
They
data,
excelled.
they could communicate, and they got a lot of profit because of that. So it's urgent, but I think most companies have to start off bite-sized goals, understand that it's through research and development budgets, and then also be able to allow a lot of wild, young, crazy ideas to thrive and be in a sandbox. And I think local Ghanaian businesses and African businesses will thrive.
Yeah, I feel like now we're getting into that space. I feel like everybody is now being open-minded. So let's see how it
15
goes.
years, man.
15
It's been
years.
a, ooh,
It's been a long time coming, but it's
But yes,
finally here. So it
absolutely.
takes me to my next question. I
Sure.
mean, AI is rapidly changing industries.
Mm.
How do you think African companies should prepare for an AI-driven future?
Great question. Most of the conversation around AI is really being had at geopolitical levels. So you have quite a number of US, some European countries, but China dominating on AI. The real truth and painful truth about AI now is that companies that are developing and building AI, there's a cost involved. The daily build for computational power and. So we don't really see too many African businesses generating their own AI. For businesses to be ready, there are a few almost like beginning steps that need to happen. One, businesses need to acknowledge that AI is coming and their business will be disrupted and have almost like a cross-functional strategy across that. So within the HR, executive community teams, the leadership teams, how do we then empower people? What are the productivity AI tools? Because there's some AI tools that are on generative things, creativity. Those things may not be as helpful, but there's quite a number of AI developments around productivity, automating some of your processes, understanding customer insights, also being able to clean up some of the code on what you build, right? And so there are some platforms that align with your business values. Claude is one of them, right? Gemini is working towards some of them and engaging with them and understanding that. The second thing also is most folks, unlike social media where there was no cost or the cost for companies to adopt social media was offsets to advertising. So your Facebook, your Instagram, these companies that I worked with, the business model was that advertisers would pay and it would be free for to use, both for businesses unless they're doing ads and then for customers. AI is a different game. We don't have advertisers standing by to use that. So you as a company, you would have to forecast what would be the use for tokens, for automation and computational power. So teams and companies in Ghana have to start thinking about that. When you speak to someone, whether it's a vendor, somebody who's offering an AI solutions, have a 3 to 5 year runway. How much would it cost us? If the dollar fluctuation changes, how much would that affect that? And then what do we want to see and what contingencies do we have in case we want to switch service providers as well? So those are kind of like the early thoughts. I think it's a really great time. A lot of the AI products now are being subsidized. It will be really good for teams to also mandate their IT teams to have a special unit that tests them, have a sandbox. Let your IT guys, and most IT guys, I know sometimes they get a lot of flack from different companies on expectations, but there's some really smart IT guys out there. If companies allow them, give them some reign, they sandbox some of the AI stuff in a closed environment with minimal risk and others, you would be able to now see how you adapt AI to your local context. One of the biggest, almost like, things I want to debunk from the audience is that AI is not built to be replicated the same everywhere. Literally, it's artificial intelligence. The intelligence adapts to local context. So the more data you have, the more you try, the more AI can serve you better. But you need to try and test. And in our parts of the world, we don't try too much.
No.
So failure, testing, and iteration is the name of the game. So I hope folks understand that they can create almost like a safe space in order for IT, HR folks, new members that are joining, a lot of your Gen Zs, millennials, let them experiment and play around because they would be the ones who would have to grapple with the effects of AI. And they're coming into a more digitized world than some of the ESCO members. So give them some autonomy to play around and they can inform your business on what's now coming on.
Okay, so they should give them room to explore, basically.
Oh, absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
All right.
It's the
So
age of experimentation.
exactly. So I'm sure they will do that. Now they are listening. Guys, listen to him. So from your experience working with Meta,
Yes.
you've supported a lot of accelerator programs. So what trends have you seen across multiple countries, like in Africa's startup ecosystem?
Yeah, so accelerator programs are really important and helpful. They're almost like a good guide to take, almost like initiatives from an ideas into something that is investor ready and hopefully into a scalable business. I don't think we have enough. And as much as people have heard about it, I think it took a while for people to even understand a DNA accelerator,
Yeah.
a DNA hub. And so we feel like, oh, yeah, tiens. But to be honest with you, these type of accelerators, so I'm also a student of innovation. I did my master's in innovation at BETS. These type of accelerating programs have been in the sciences, have been in the process for taking people to the moon and others for decades. We're just now catching up. I would suspect that businesses that are market leaders in industries, whether it's chocolates, some of them local brewery and others, they should create accelerator programs because there are a lot of nations, almost like people with ideas that want to enter, but they need the guidance, they need the support on products, on customer feedback, and all of that. Moving to the second part of your question, the startup ecosystem in Ghana is still quite early. There are quite a number of brilliant ideas, brilliant people. Unfortunately, the startup ecosystem is heavily guided by funding. So if somebody comes in and says, hey, I'm going to fund maybe the blue economy, so we need people who would participate on oceans and others, you find that people will run towards that rather than the startup ecosystem being funded on interest and passion. People have different things that they're passionate about. Some of them could be on music, some of them could be on tourism, but the funding doesn't allow them to express what they're good at. So you find a lot of people crowding or going towards, for example, over the last 5 years, fintech and fintech spaces. So you have 110 apps on fintech, and they're competing around each other, doing the same thing, and that doesn't foster almost a robust economy. But when you have a diversity of topics, where people have looked at tourism, what is digitization, booking, feedback, and others look like. People have looked at heritage music. So then when, for example, I Shall Speak came in, there's a digital way for people to experience snippets and others across Ghanaian-owned African platforms.
Yeah.
Those kind of things would show a bit more of a diversity. Same thing in our manufactured goods. If we think about our traditional things like traditional sobolo, pineapple juice and others, what are the ways that digital or digitization can improve manufacturing, distribution of these things? Our snacks up in the north or in the Volta, all these type of ability to package and make things beautiful. In Japan, there's a company that thrives in giving gifts across the world. So Japanese gifts and others is a big thing. And it doesn't matter where you are at. You go online, you can book it, and it can be shipped to you. So you carry a piece of Japanese culture with you. Right? We want to see
That's
that
very
kind of
innovative.
Exactly. So look at our Atadri milk or Kati cake and others, packaged properly. Exactly, with some level of shea butter and others, but it's a digitized process because procurement on the back end, distribution and delivery is figured out. That's kind of what we need in our startup ecosystem. Those are low-hanging fruits, but we need the funders to be able to allow free reign so that the ideas and things that work for Ghana, not just fintech and or traditional solutions, are being funded.
Yeah, funders should allow us to explore and
Innovate.
innovate, honestly. So it takes me to my next question. You spoke about working in education as well.
Sure.
So you've worked in education. Why do you think it's critical for universities and training institutions to add AI and digital skills?
So I also host, and I'm really grateful. I did very well in school, attended Persec. I was a National Merit Scholar, and so I got a chance to choose first choice university and attend on a presidential scholarship for all 4 years was paid for. But a lot of people don't have my journey, right? So a lot of times when I share this, because I also attended Faith Montessori and part of the founding class, I share this because I think a lot of people generally, whether you like to or not, should volunteer to teach. Your alma mater, your former school and others, because then when things like AI and others come, you will see the gaps, and then you would also see, compared to folks in other countries, what they're working with, right? So artificial intelligence is an advanced tool. There might be something beyond what we consider AI now that comes through. I look at it as, back then when I was at Faith Montessori, we knew about the abacus and others. When I attended Persec, we knew some calculators, but we did differentiation and we did calculus without a calculator. So when I went to the States, then there was the Casio calculators that allowed you to do things. And I was like, why am I doing all these equations? Right? That's how I feel like a lot of young people would feel when they have a calculator or they don't. And the same way, a lot of young people, even more advanced when they are taught with AI and when they don't. Our peers in China and UAE and others, they're being taught how to think fundamentally and solve complex problems. they're not being taught rote memory and others, right? So with artificial intelligence, a good platform, Notebook LLM created by Google, for example, it allows you to cite and put a database of resources. So you're engaging and interrogating with that data or passed in a question format. So it's almost teasing out your thinking, and it lets you know that you're not supposed to just give a finite answer. You're supposed to give solutions to complex problems.
Yeah.
So I hope I'm trying to carry your audience along. If you think that way, then you realize that AI is supposed to be a prerequisite. Obviously, they recommended AI with privacy and security, but also not just students and others, teachers in the universities and educational institutions. A lot of them are not paid as much. A lot of them don't have access to the tools. So even when you introduce the tools, it's not enough for the tools to be there. The teaching staff, whether it's professors, TAs, associate professors, they should be enabled and have competency to show and explain what they're
They
doing.
really don't even have the access to these tools. So it makes it a bit hard.
It's a challenge.
It's a challenge.
Yes.
But yes, so what role do you think young innovators and educators play in shaping Africa's digital economy?
Africa's digital economy is fascinating. I think there are a few reports around that looking at the potential. To be fair, we've not reached where Africa's digital economy should be because of challenges like power, resources, and others. Outside of capital cities, most of the other cities in the 53, maybe 54 countries don't have continuous access to power. So that means that you even have a limit to what you can do digitally.
Yeah.
Secondly, as well, being able to make money, whether it's a product or service that somebody wants abroad, is quite difficult. It's easy for you to remit money or remit money coming through, but for you to sell and collect money and other things, there are so many safeguards and other things around that don't make it happen. So the digital economy is still quite nascent. The foundations aren't there. However, what we're seeing is a lot of people are using the creative economy, so music, movies, and others, to bypass some of these structural issues, right?
Yeah.
To tell our stories, to showcase that. I think fundamentals need to be addressed, intellectual property rights, also like creators' rights and compensation. So when you have music playing, whether it's on digital platforms and others, that ownership should come to the artist, because that's what allows young innovators to have the money to be able to pay. So those are the structural things. In terms of potential, personally, and I've been to Asia, been to Switzerland and Europe, lived in the United States, lived in Mauritius, and seen what we have. The continents, we're naturally gifted in creativity and music and others, but the structures for us getting paid is the barrier. So innovators have almost like the sky is the ceiling, but the structural supports from governments, from regional institutions, from international institutions, recognizing and acknowledging African creators, I think that's where that gap needs to be. And once that's fixed, the digital economy would boom, and it looks like it could be one of the top 3 generators of income next to mining and construction and commodities here. Yeah.
Okay, then we have a leeway there somehow.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's potential. We're also the youngest population, right? So that means that anything that is novel or new, our population is willing to try. You have older population folks, Nordic states, Japan, and
They're
others.
stuck in their ways.
100%. So if you bring these type of things, they may not find new use for it. The future may not be as done, but we also have huge infrastructure gaps, and digital thrives on infrastructure, data, and access.
Okay. So looking ahead, what excites you most about technology and the future of technology and innovation in Africa? That's my last question to you. So give me your best. Yeah.
She said that's my last question. To be honest, I'm in a frame of mind where I'm really enjoying heritage music, palm wine music, and convening and communing, right? So I mentioned community earlier. I think the future looks like representation. I spoke about studying abroad and others, and when I was a teenager, a lot of people were not as proud as they are now to say that I'm from an African country. We're not as proud to say I'm from a specific space. You can also see the same thing with the Super Bowl performance in Latin America, right? So there's something about authentically being and owning where you're from, and I think it's because our stories are being shared digitally, and I'm so excited about that. There are a couple of really good projects that have come out, some of them the Mali project, Havington Book 2, and Past African Scholarship, digitally framed so you can see and access that in case those places are affected by climate change and others. There's also been something around Lagos and Afrobeats and others pushing. Same thing with Amapiano in South Africa, music as a draw, some of the arts and culture. So I get excited that outside of our libraries and outside of our traditional media, anybody anywhere can start to tell stories. A good example, Gold Coast Reports and the Church of Stories. There are few creatives that have been creating audio stories exploring high life. I think it's about last year to this year is the 50th anniversary of high life and celebration. And they're celebrating what Ghana was like and how high life was a vehicle for championing independence and freedom through Nkrumah's era. So you can almost immerse yourself in some of those things at an inexpensive rate. Back then, you'd have to go to a mausoleum, go to the University of Ghana, see the department.
They'll be pushing you at the security post, go back, go back.
Exactly. But now there are folks who are bringing those type of experiences through podcasts, hopefully through music, the burial of Kojo, seeing some West Africans do huge platforms and celebrating that so that we have access and then we can feel like our authentic selves. So I'm very excited about authenticity, heritage, culture, and what digital allows us to do.
Okay, so authenticity, heritage, and culture. Okay,
100%.
so we're excited about those things.
Yes,
So can you tell my audience where they can find you so you can look there?
Oh, absolutely. So first place, you can find me at www.thenewghanaian.com. That's my personal website. You can also Google me. I used to say this when I joined Google Ghana and YouTube, Emmanuel Agbeko Gamor, Emmanuel Gamor. At EA Gamor on social media, or even if you want, for fun and shege, Hawaiian DJ, one word, and you'll find me as well.
All right. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your insights with us.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So much.
We're going for a short commercial break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Introducing Business Tech Guide, where business and tech meets endless possibilities. Join us whilst we explore the latest updates in the world of business and technology. Do not miss out.
Did you know you can start an online business and generate 1,000 to 2,000 Ghana cedis every single month? Well, all you have to do is to go to the App Store on Apple or Play Store on Android and search for this app, Tendo, Tendo. Download it and sign up. Tendo will give you access to all the goods you need to sell online at no upfront cost. So yes, once again, you don't need capital. Simply share these products on your WhatsApp, TikTok, and other platforms. When you get a customer, you go back on the app and then you place an order. Tendo will handle your deliveries and make sure your profit on each sale is paid to you. Now, capital is no more an excuse, so you can start selling right away.